All right. So that last video was supposed to be simple. All we did was combine injections and structure. All right. Hopefully you guys now know how to understand how structure is liquidity and how the liquidity expands. All right. Hopefully we now have an understanding of minor versus medium versus major inducement. And I encourage everybody that is first starting off trading to just focus on the major inducements, right? Finding those sweeps of 4 hour highs and lows, and then just understanding that price is very likely to reverse from those points. Remember, we still got some time here. What we're going to go over in this video in particularly is the daily cycle, right? Sessions timings, and just really understanding time as price. So to get into the basics of it first, right? What is the daily cycle? And if you haven't watched my video already on YouTube, that pretty much goes over the highest probability setups for the most part. But in reality, all the daily cycle is okay, here is the Asian buildup, right? Wherever Frankfurt sweeps, right? London will continue that move. Now, let me go ahead and break this down from a session time point, right? In the correct session timings. Frankfurt, for me, will be 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Right? Yes, theoretically, Frankfurt does, or not in theory, technically, Frankfurt does open at 2. However, we're going to have our Asian box 18 to 1. Right? We know as soon as Frankfurt sweeps lows, right, and London's still moving down, you know that London's going to continue. All right. So here we are. Right, and let's pretend that these both are not minor inducements, but medium inducements, right? This would continue if this was considered to be a minor inducement. And we're going to go over some live examples here in a bit. Frankfurt, majority of the time is going to stop hunt. London will continue to move, and New York will reverse. All right, oh, God, will reverse, right? That is generally the daily cycle criteria. Now, what can also happen, the opposite of this can happen, sure. New York can also come back down, reverse, and or continue. All right, this is the basis of the daily cycle. We have stop hunts to the low. It's almost, the Asian is almost acting like a break of structure. Price comes down and mitigates at least something, right? Your most likely mitigation is going to come from the extreme, not something that is occurring from this huge impulse, right? Are there other variants of the daily cycle? Sure. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of variants of the daily cycle. Price does not move the same every single day. All right, you can see we swipe to the lows, come to the highs, swipe again. But what's important to understand is how are we playing these session timings, right? So this will be 3 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. All this is UTC-5, New York Eastern Standard Time, however you need to convert it. I'd convert it. You're then going to have a dead zone. Which is always 5:30 p.m. I do 7. I know liquidity inducement theorem does 7:30. I do 7 a.m. I prefer it. It works for me. New York for me starts around that 7 a.m. marker. I will trade normally till 11 a.m. So New York has the biggest kill zone. Right. All right. How do we play this? Well, we already know the most generic daily cycle, which is pretty much we've pretty much gone over on my YouTube. I feel like I don't really need to go over that. I kind of just did for the most part. We go over the Asian whipsaw on my YouTube as well. So let's go over some of the more complex variants, things that don't happen often, but can happen, right? For say London has not gotten swept at all. And in fact, London was the one that swept Frankfurt, right? And the Asian highs. This could be the opposite as well. Now let's say we come all the way back down and we sweep Asian lows. And in the dead zone, we actually come up, mitigate in the dead zone, and make a lower low, right? What's going to happen most likely is that this dead zone, right, if we make an extreme in the dead zone, will be inducement, right, to the London highs, especially if we have a break of structure, right? Now, once price comes right back into the zone, yes, we will tap and we will run. All right, and this happens on both sides. Whatever the dead zone is inducing London highs, and we have a whipsaw, this setup is very likely to occur. What else do we have? Let's pretend that the dead zone actually took out London highs, right? Or London lows, but we're just going to stick with this perspective. We took out London highs. We had a liquidity grab, right? Well, for this to be true, I need to change up one thing. London cannot take out the Asian lows yet, but the dead zone can take out the London highs, right? It would look a little bit more like that to be accurate. So here, the dead zone's taking out London highs. We come right back in. We actually can either mitigate or take this out, doesn't matter, right? But what New York is going to do is it's going to take out the dead zone highs. Why? During the dead zone, if the dead zone takes out London highs or low, the New York session is very likely to take out the dead zone highs or lows again. Why? Because no one important, right, besides retail trading is occurring in this dead zone, right? Banks are not trading in the dead zone. 5:30 to 7 a.m., they're not trading here. So what is the market going to do? They're going to take out all of retail one more time during New York and then go the opposite way. Liquidity grab 1 during London, liquidity grab 2 during the dead zone. New York will take that manipulation and we will run. Right, and that will happen on the opposite side as well. You can also see my other liquidity inducement templates also on YouTube. These templates are no secret, right? To me, they don't mean anything unless you understand algo structure and injections, which is what we're going to go into. Like I said before, these are just concepts, right? I don't really think they help. You know, in all reality, like daily cycle is helpful if you're just trading the daily cycle. But if you understand algo structure and you understand injections and those two things alone, you will be a successful trader, right? Just understanding those inducements. Let's go over another daily cycle variant, right? Let's go ahead and pretend now that Frankfurt has swept the highs. London brings price all the way back down to the midline of the Asian session. A lot of the time, this is called a break and retest of the London session, right? But this only really occurs if price is coming from an uptrend, right? If we were coming from a downtrend, price is very likely just to continue. Since we were coming from an uptrend, this would then be a break and retest. London should continue, the dead zone should get higher. Now remember, if the dead zone has higher highs and lows than London, right? New York should take it out one more time and then run. The dead zone should always be getting taken out during New York, right? Our POI for London, right? We should see some sort of sweep of liquidity. Actually, this should have swept down here, then ran, right? There would have been some sort of minor inducement in here. If you watch my YouTube videos on daily cycle, you watch the liquidity inducement templates and you understand these now, in reality, that's really it. You know, there are a bunch of other different cycles that I could introduce you to, but they're not really important. And you're going to find that through my breakdowns, you're going to see the different variants over and over and over again. let's apply this now onto the charts. Let's do a little breakdown, right? Now that we understand session timings. All right, let's go on to the daily time frame, right? Let's mark out our injection. All right, let's go into the 4-hour. Let's see if we see anything crazy here. I see this injection, right? It clearly got swept. I see this injection got swept down into here. I don't really need it because now all of this becomes external liquidity, right? Theoretically, coming Monday, so tomorrow, we will see price kind of sweep these highs and run, is what I have so far. Right. Let's pretend that we're trading. Let me do a bar replay the day before. Let's just make this easy on ourselves, right? Let's trade Friday. And let's look at the New York session. Let's get rid of session breaks for now. Let's find our major inducements. What do we need? What can we see? Structure is building. Like, so this is a low, but it's unimportant now. This is also low to high. These seem to be all the major inducements from a close proximity that I can see right now. Right, when an injection lines up with a structural point, that is very powerful. Both are also of which on phase 2 of the liquidity cycle. All right, we know what so far. These all down here need to get swept. These all down here need to get swept. This needs to get swept. This needs to get swept. What else do we know? Our most recent stop hunt, right, determines our direction. Right, so this right here is telling us coming into the session that we are looking for buys. Right, our main objective, knowing that we have stop hunted here, tells me we are going to be looking for buys. Let's get into it. Let's go into the hourly. See what we missed here. You can clearly see the hour is making higher highs, higher lows. This isn't really a low yet because we have not made a higher high. Let's hop into the fit. Well, before we do that, this is an inducement that needs to get swept. Let's go into the 15-minute. I want to see the Asian session start to build. All right. What can we see here? Do we see how before, here are these highs, right? Here are these highs. Remember I told you this liquidity always needs to get swept and it'll go the opposite way. That's exactly what happened, right? Just showing you before. But anyways, you can see minor inducement here. I'm gonna erase all these, make these red. These are actually all medium inducement because they're from the day before. Right, we know what? We know we can have a reaction here. Right, we know we can have a reaction here. All right, let's zoom in a little bit more. Let's look for our minor inducements in the Asian session. All right, we see structure building, higher highs, higher lows. You see how the market's constantly fractal. I'm going to make these yellow, show that they're smaller. Here's inducement. Right, just identify all your inducements. Right, that's what we got to be patient for. All right, here we are. First of the daily cycle. Let's mark out our session timings so we can understand how to combine this now with session timings. London is going to start here. All right, we have our dead zone right here, and then New York starts right here. Let's mark that in. Here's New York. dead zone, London, Frankfurt. What can we already tell? This is not medium inducement. We're not looking for a reversal. We're looking for a continuation, right? Why are we looking for a continuation? First of all, it's minor inducement. Second of all, look where we're coming from. Up, right? You see how price has came up into the Asian. And we eventually have a break of the Asian right here. Right? I usually use 10-minute for entries. As soon as we sweep liquidity, I sent this trade out a while ago. Well, I guess last week. But we broke out of the Asian highs, and as soon as we sweat that liquidity, it's like, shit, we need to start looking for continuations, right? Because we're coming from an uptrend. I can clearly see that there is a trend line telling me that there are going to be inducement buys, right? Here, where do we find our bullish engulfing before we broke the structural point? Right here, right? How do we also know we're going to continue? My indicator. If we are breaking with imbalance, it is very likely we're going to continue. This would be our buy continuation, our buy continuation move, right? Based off of session timings as well. Another thing, I like to trade current structure, right? The closer the OB to price mitigating, the better. I don't like it when OBs are super far away. I think they're unconsidered at that point, right? So they're less likely to work. Notice how here, price starts to jump, right? And I got more entries here. We sweep liquidity now. We have to reevaluate. What's the first thing I notice? We're breaking with momentum, right? We're breaking, yes, resistance or an inducement with a ton of imbalance, right? Where is the candle that caused the break of structure? This candle and the 10-minute caused this break of structure. So as soon as price comes into here, I could re-enter, right? It's London session. We had a break and retest to confirm that London is going to continue. All right, so based off a daily cycle, based on the fact that we have an imbalance running into a medium inducement, which is either continuations or reversals, considering that we have a candle that caused the break of structure, right? I want to be looking for more continuations. Here we tap and run. We'd be grabbing buys here, right? There is then order flow from these wicks to these wicks here for more buys. We then break this inducement with this candle based off of the daily cycle break and retest pattern, based off of the session timings, and based off of knowing that this inducement can cause a continuation. We can tap and run and go. What else happens? We eventually come and sweep. Look at the price action. Really look at the price action. Look at how the candle closed. Look at all the rejection, right? There is a good chance price will reverse here. I'm not going to go into M1 yet. Yes, you can enter this on M1. I'm going to show you how to in probably the next video. But for now, what happened? London is driven all the way up, all right? If we understand that London has already made its move, right, and we understand daily cycle, right, this is basically what's going on here. Boom, break, retest. Here's London. What's most likely going to happen? The dead zone is either going to take it out and then run, or the dead zone is going to come all the way down, try and break something, New York to come back up, retest, and then run again. That is really what's likely to happen from my experience. Let's take a look. Here we finally have somewhat of a break of these lows, a change of character. The market starts to melt down a bit. We need to identify where the market is going to sweep to change direction. All right, where can we sweep again? Well, doesn't really matter anymore. We can understand that we could sweep these highs again. I don't like these that much. I like these lows down here, right? These yellow lows. It looks like the only two areas we are really eyeing are these lows and these highs for a possible move in New York, or these lows. Are these lows inducing a POI with an imbalance? Not that I see. Are these lows inducing a POI with an imbalance? Yes. This could be a possible reaction point. Let's see what happens. Here we're about to open in New York. New York is most likely going to what? Short. Why at the open? Because we've come from this part, sweeping the highs of the Asian. Price comes down. Looks like we're having a reaction on the inducement. Theoretically, we could look for continuations. What was the OB that caused this break? This one right here. I can't really see if it has wicks or not because of this. When we move this over, it does. Right, so theoretically, this was the candle that caused the break. Also, there's an imbalance that's breaking it, giving me more confirmation. What happened? Did we tap and run? Looks like we missed it. Did we tap and run in the 15-minute? Remember, it's not just the 10-minute. No, we did not. Well, unfortunately, we were not able to grab continuations. Although we might be able to. Yeah, and there it is. Eventually, here's our continuations. Right? We always aim for the next sweep of liquidity. So here, as soon as we sweep this liquidity, we're going to break even, possibly reverse at this POI here. Right? Let's see what happens. It even gives us another opportunity. But what I need to check is on the 15-minute, is my POI big enough? Did we tap this right here on another time frame? That's what I need to understand. Doesn't look like we did. Here we have a sweep of liquidity. Let's go back down into here. We swept liquidity without an imbalance. This comes all the way back up. I'm not sure if I would re-enter. Let's take a look. I would actually. There's a good chance I could start looking for buys here. Why? Price has done what? We swept, right? Liquidity. Huge rejection. We had a bullish engulfing of this candle, right? This is also known as a morning star. As soon as this happens, so let me go back. Like so, as soon as we closed above this bearish candle's open, this creates an OB. Am I okay with it? It could be the smart money trap to this OB down here. I would take both. If you tap out of this one, SL, retake your position here again. We know the market's very likely to move up. Because we what? Swept liquidity twice. See what happens. We tap into the OB. Looks like we tap into this one, like we said before. Here's our run. Now what can we do? Well, this was also NFP. But we tap into our OB. We run a bit. What happens again? We have another bullish engulfing. We can take this all as order flow. We want to re-enter. Price comes in, taps into that POI again, and then runs. It looks like we have another sweep right here. What was the break, what caused the break? Well, it looks like this candle caused the break. So it looks like we already got those entries for the continuations, right? Price should continue now. Here we have finally a sweep of those highs, right? We could be looking for a reversal here or a continuation. Where was the breaker? This was the breaker. Here's that retest of the breaker. Eventually continue. Now it looks like we're about to sweep 4-hour highs. So when it comes to it, this is all live as of right now. Now we're fully up to date. We would be looking for what? A sweep of these 4-hour highs, some sort of continuation for us. I mean, sweep of these highs, some sort of confirmation for us to go lower and or confirmation for us to go higher. Now we're primarily going to look for reversals here. Why? Because it's the 4-hour and it's major inducement. Yeah, it's basically a combination of session timings, right? Structural inducements, using the 10-minute, 15-minute, and in the next video, we are probably going to go over entries, right? 1-minute entries versus 10-minute entries versus 15-minute entries. But hopefully some of this is starting to click. Oh, wait, one thing I want to go over, special minute mitigations. Now, the special minute mitigations for London, that's 3:30 a.m. All right, that's when the market opens, and for the US, that's 9:30 a.m. If price mitigates exactly at these times, there's a very, very, very probable trade. Let's see if I can find an example. It doesn't look like any happened, but yeah, it doesn't look like any happened during this session. I don't really like to trade him. I don't care for him. You guys are going to see probably within video 6, 7, and 8 more of an idea of how I kind of lost my train of thought. How I kind of use minute mitigations, but you'll see kind of how I'm using all this on a day-to-day basis quite often. Hopefully this makes sense right now. You can see the opportunity with it, see how sweeps and mitigations all work, right? Some days are better than others, obviously. Remember that these yellow ones are minor inducement. We're not really looking for trades majority of the time, right? But you'll get plenty of opportunities with the external liquidity plays as time goes on. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video.